And welcome back in Stripe Show podcast, midweek edition. Really excited about this one because the gentleman sitting next to me, one of the top teachers in the game and has been for a very long time, taking some time out of his day here in January, Rolling Oaks, Dallas, Texas, one of the top teachers in the game, Mr. Randy Smith. Randy, thank you so much for joining me here.
You bet, Travis.
So, got a couple players out there that are playing some really good golf. I want to start with Ryan Palmer, of course, Texas guy. You guys have been working for the better part of 11 years. Got up to a good start there. Tournament of Champions, little T4 finish. You know, I'm curious, at the age of 44 with Ryan, guy that's still trying to be competitive right now on the PGA Tour. It's a young man's game. We're in the distance era. I'm curious the conversations that you guys have about his game to continue to go out there and be competitive like he was in Hawaii.
Well, you know, coming off, he had a phenomenal year last year.
Mm-hmm.
There were some things he did better. Number one was putting better, and his putting stats have really come around. So he's done a good job with that. But I think the consistency in his ball striking is really what's put him in position to, you know, where the putts will pay off. It's hard to explain. Ryan's one of those guys that his focus is the older he gets, the more focused he is. And, you know, it's kind of odd. A lot of times, you know, you get kind of off this way or the other, but Ryan's focus has been phenomenal. And going into the tournament at Kapalua, he was excited like a kid. And I kind of see it when he went over there. You know, and it's been one of those situations to where, like the distance issue, he's longer than he's ever been in his life right now at 44. And the thing about it is, during the course of this year, I think he's going to get even longer. He's running consistent club head speeds of, 118, 119, and practice cruiser speed 16 to 17, and ball speeds that push 175. So,
yeah,
if you're doing that, you're going to be up there in driving distance. And he's got a very consistent ball flight with his driver. And that is something, once you trust that your driver does X and you know it's going to move maybe pretty straight to drop a little bit right, you can be a lot more aggressive with a number of golf courses.
And he likes to see the ball, but peel right, a little bit, just kind of a slight fade off the tee.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Irons too. Is or is it pretty straight?
It's pretty straight, but Ryan is kind of an artist with his irons. He'll go right to left to right. He varies his heights really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
But with the driver, you know, the one thing I don't want to ever hear him say, "Oh, I'm going to hit my draw."
Okay.
Oh, don't do that. Just tee it up, line it down the left side of the fairway, just knock the fire out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what he's done well. And I look forward to him doing that again this year.
Take me back to the middle of the year last year. I've got his season pulled up here. He was at the work day. He had I think he shot 81 on Friday, and then he does an emergency trip to you because something has gone haywire before Memorial, right? And you spend some time with him, Randy, and he comes back and he gets second at the Memorial. What did you tell him?
I said, buddy, come on. Now, that was that doubleheader they had at Muirfield, wasn't it?
Yeah.
He, I don't know. I thought he was playing the fourth flight at the Men's Club Championship. And the funny thing was, he didn't show any signs of that, because he'll come over, a couple times a week prior to tournaments when he's off, maybe. Yeah. And we were just going through this kind of like rehearsals, this, that, and the other, and everything was fine. He went down there and it just got sideways.
Mm-hmm.
I think at that particular tournament, I think I saw a swing on TV that was really bad. And then a couple of phone calls. He missed the cut. And I got this phone call after he missed the cut. It says, "I'm coming home."
Mm.
And I said, "I guess I better clear some space, huh?" So he came in. He got back that Friday night. Came over here Saturday morning. And here we go.
Mm.
And looked at it. And what it boiled down to, he was getting the golf club a little more shut than he normally does on the way back. Had a little problem with the way the grip was interacting with his backswing. You figure at 43 years old, you would probably have that down, but as tour players have little small things that go wrong. We addressed that. And then we got probably the biggest root of the whole deal is that the tendency for him to reach for the golf ball or to kind of slump over and reach out, just not a good mix. And we put those two things together and worked on it. And I think we did a little something the next morning just to make sure everything looked good. How you feel? I'm ready to go. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
Gets on the plane Sunday night, goes back up and played absolute beautiful golf.
Yeah,
John
he did.
Just was lights out to win that golf tournament. Ryan did wonderful. He did a heck of a job.
Strokes gain approach, he was plus 10 that week.
Yeah.
Wow.
Don't reach. All right.
Yeah, that's a huge. I mean, that's a huge number. I mean, what a turnaround! He was -2 at workday, and then he goes plus 10 the next week at Memorial. And he's kind of, he is a bit of a shut-faced player, but at that time, it was. I think I saw some picture. I mean, the toe was way down, and it looked like you kind of rotated it up a little bit more, and then he was able to get the club back out in front of him a little bit more rather than kind of trap behind him. Talk about, if you could, just working with that face, when it gets a little, up to the sky. Ryan, probably a little more of a closed face player, and just the things that have to go around that to work through the impact zone for him to get that dead straight shot. Or he likes to work it. He can work it both ways, but when he's really grooving it, little fade off the tee, pretty straight with the irons. What seems to be working for him around that face being managed?
Well, the thing I've always kind of said to him, and I asked him that, I'll never forget the first time I ever worked with Ryan. I knew him, but this number of years ago, and I asked him, I said, what's sacred in your golf swing? Is the backswing and the face, is that sacred? And he kind of said, well, I've kind of always done it. And I said, all right, let's see if we can work around it a little bit. And we did. And over a year and a half, maybe 2 years, we got to the point where instead of controlling the club faces is going back and getting to the top of the swing, let's control the face coming out of the top of the swing, and make sure it's getting to a point where it's giving you what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And so we look more at the downswing, the change of direction, to where we get more of what I call a heel lead coming into the ball, and getting tangled up there and then having to really open it back up, which when you open it back up from a shut face, 9 times out of 10, that thing's falling dead behind you. Okay. So it's dead behind you. What are you going to have to do when you go through? That's flipping the hands and some bad contact. So we worked a great deal on getting the heel to come out first from the top. And it was a feel that Ryan had when he played bunker shots. He said, this isn't foreign. I figured it was going to sound kind of odd when I said it. And he says, no, this is kind of what I feel when I play a fairway bunker shot. I feel like the heel is coming first. That's good. I can do that. And as soon as he started getting a little better feel for his club face coming out of the top, it wasn't too long before Ryan he went into, hey, this is cool. I said, hit some fades. Yeah, he started hitting the ball with a little bit of a fade with his irons, and that opened up a whole bunch of golf courses for him to play.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? You see these little shut face at the top, left wrist pretty flat, maybe a little arched for some. Ryan and DJ, right, is probably the one that always comes to mind for people because they can see that. Right. And these guys fade it. They work it down, shaft still shallows. They get it out in front of them, cover it, and get that little peeler to the left. And for Ryan, that worked out pretty good for him last year. I mean, check these stats out, Randy. I'll read you off, and I'm sure you guys have looked through them. But 2020 stats. I mean, strokes gained off the tee was 10th. I mean, that's a incredible number. Approach, he was 33rd, and total strokes gained total, he was 15th. So those are some heady numbers. In what I consider in the modern game, this is a young man's game for the most part. I mean, these guys coming out and what Bryson's doing and the speed that they're creating at the age of 44, you guys had to look at that and be pretty darn happy going into this year. What's been kind of the main focus as you guys have turned the page now for 2021? Is it just, let's just keep doing what we're doing here, keep hitting the ball the way that we are. And when we have our good putting weeks, like we did at Century, we'll be right there.
I think that's very, very close right there.
Okay.
But the biggest thing, I think what Ryan's got to do is, he's not reinventing the wheel right now. Everything done last year and this year has basically been in maintenance of maintaining the motion, paying attention to the things that are really not good for him, reaching for a golf ball, not paying attention to the posture it's set up. And, I said setup. I thought setup was overrated 20 years ago, but it's not, because the path of the club when you go back. And if you're in a bad position at setup, more than likely the club's not going to respond very well going back. If he pays attention to those things, it becomes maintenance. So that to have a better year than he had this past year, it's maintaining yourself on the golf course, getting used to being in the position to win a golf tournament when you're coming into Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Own it, own it. Be the guy. Have people looking at you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Be a little cocky about it. And once you're on the golf course, when faced with adversity, get out of it as quick as possible. Go back to the offensive style of play that you have. You get after pins, you get after holes, and play offensively instead of playing defensively.
Yeah, he's got 4 PGA Tour wins, off to a good start this year. So looking for number 5 and just continuing on these impressive stats. I've got to go to another one of your star pupils. He just happens to be the rookie of the year, the defending rookie of the year, I should say, or however you would say that. Scottie Scheffler, who, of course, went to school right there. Someone that you've known a long time. Take me back in about the history here when you met Scottie, and just a little bit about the young man and who he is. We see him on the golf course. I mean, I just love watching him play. I can't wait to see how things pan out for him. But a young Scottie coming up to you on the lesson tee, and as you've watched him grown into the man he's become, tell us about it.
Well, it was kind of an odd situation. Somebody at the shop said, Randy, there's a family want to come out and see the facilities out here, and they wanted to meet you. And I said, meet me. And I was up here, just teaching, and this is forever ago. Let's see how many years that would be. That would be 18 years ago. He's about 6.5.
Okay.
They were moving in from New York, and they had this little kid that was, the next coming is what I'd heard. And I'm going, the next coming, here we go. All right.
You've never heard that.
I've never heard that.
Yeah.
He's got all the talent in the world. He's next coming. And sure enough, they come out, and I was finishing a lesson. In fact, I tell you who I was working with Justin Leonard at the time. Never forget it. And the parents came out, and this little kid comes out with a golf bag about as tall as he is. And he goes up, and he's just standing there, and they set him up to hit some balls down from me, and I couldn't help but glance over. And I glanced. This little kid is making swings that were the same swing every time.
Mm-hmm.
Something I looked at. Wasn't looking around at anything. He was looking at what he was doing and warmed up and practiced and this, that, and the other. And I finished with Justin. I walked back there and introduced myself. How you doing? I went over and I watched him hit balls. And it was probably within 15 to 20 minutes, I had that aha moment. And I've had probably 3 or 4 of those in my whole career. And this was maybe if not the biggest, it was close to it.
And he was 6.
6.5, 7, right in there.
Wow.
It was different. It was totally different. It's, when you watch it was kind of like watching a small child. You see them on TV. They're 6, 7 years old, and they're sitting on telephone books at a piano and playing anything in the world on a piano.
Wow.
Without even looking at music, just playing. That's what it looked like, him hitting golf balls.
He's was the foot at 6 or 10 or 15, what age was this footwork starting to come about? Because that's not something that is taught to him. I mean, he's probably developed that at a very young age when his feet were kind of moving around the way that they do. There's been other players that have done it. Greg Norman, goodness gracious, one of the best drivers of the golf ball. And he gets compared to that a lot. When did that footwork start about?
Oh, he had footwork then.
Did he?
Oh yeah. There was some movement around, but I think everything in it is there with most younger players. And I think we do a disservice to a lot of kids by, oh, we got to get this footwork and plant it down, get it planted, and you take away the aggressiveness of their golf swing. And that's an ingredient. It gets them in trouble, but that aggressiveness through impact, sometimes they have to use their feet, their knees a lot more when they're small, because that golf club weighs a lot more than what you think it does for a person that small. And to really get the club in there and square it, sometimes the feet are going to jump out of the way and do this, that, and the other. And you can look at great players today and see the different footworks that unbelievable. And one that sticks out to me is Justin Thomas's back foot coming into the ball on driver. I mean, that thing's up so early, it's unbelievable.
Right.
That's his feel for getting the power out of the shot. I don't think anybody's going to change it. I know his dad's not going to change it.
No,
because it's part of him. As far as Scottie, we have done some things to get the footwork more under control. I think Scottie says it best because he heard somebody talking about his footwork on TV. And you'll see most of the footwork, if he's on an unlevel lie, uphill, downhill, side hill, you'll see more of it. But he's on a flat lie, it can look pretty good, and it does look a lot like Greg Norman's. Now, Greg
interesting.
Norman was one of the straightest drivers of golf ball that ever played this game. And look at Scottie's best stat is driving a golf ball. So I don't know. I mean, let's play with this a little bit, but let's don't go whole hog with the driver. With the iron shots, yes, I'm trying to get it a little bit quieter. But he says it best. He says, when I get so dadgum far out of position sometimes, I've got to do things with my feet, arms, and everything to get that club face going back the direction I want it to through impact. And that is another strong suit of his golf swing, is that when he gets in trouble, he has enough feel in his hands, and it goes back through his body to correct a bad shot and save it, get something out of it. And that right there is getting a little bit better, though, to where he trusted a little bit more on.
Yeah, the genius, right? I mean, that's the genius within that. They, no matter where it is in space, they can manufacture it somehow. They know, even when it gets like you're just scratching your head, like, no, don't do that. And then
a real good point. If this has happened once in the last year, I'm going to use the last year plus. He's been on the PGA Tour, not Korn Ferry. Where I've gotten a phone call, I'm sitting there and I'll text him, and he is the absolute world's worst about using his telephone. Yeah.
We're talking about Scottie Scheffler here, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, happy Thanksgiving. Well, New Year's Eve, I get it back. Thanks. And do, but I mean, I text shot in some tournament. This happened 2 or 3 times. So in one tournament, he shot 64, I think was the number. And I mean, a phenomenal round of golf. Yeah. And I was trying to keep up with it on the computer there with shot tracker and all this kind of stuff, which I've given up on. That drives me too nuts. But I was sitting there and I'm watching, we made birdie from the right rough. He chipped in as a 50-footer. That's 3 under. Boom. Ball in the water. Dropped out. Next to the hole. Tap in par. And I'm going, this isn't quite right. But then I got to watch it. It's okay, but a lot of things going on. I get a call from him. I'm hitting it horrible. I've got to figure out, it was a great round. Yeah, it was all right. But I'm hitting it horrible. And so that kind of says something about it. He can hit the ball, kind of be off and get really great scores out of it. Not going, but if that gets to matching up with the ball striking and the competitive nature and creativity he has, he could be really good. Yeah.
Well, that's, that's a credit to you in many ways, in that probably coaching when he was younger, that he's playing golf, not golf swing, or, that the score is what matters. And there's a lot to this game rather than trying to play a position or a perfect type of swing, right? Which, players can fall into. But the genius with him, it appears, is that, he obviously he's got incredible control of the face, and he can make scores when it's not perfect. He can shoot 60-40 to your point and then call his coach and be like, something's got to get better here, because And you're thinking, wow, that's amazing. You know, this kid can shoot 64 when he doesn't have his A game. You know, it's fascinating when I watch Scottie swing. It's really quite opposite of Ryan in many ways. You know, he rotates the face more going back. You know, he's got a little more toe hang at the top. He's got more flexion. He's got more flexion in his trail knee at the top, where Ryan kind of straightens the right leg a little bit, you know, bows the lead wrist. So you've got two players who do it very differently, you know, as far as the techniques and matching that up. And I just, you know, I have a lot of respect for that in teachers that have those stables of just a lot of different components, you know, because you haven't molded them into one particular swing. And I think the DNA is so apparent, and the genius of the player is so apparent. And that just struck my mind after you just told that story about him shooting 64 when he clearly didn't have his A game.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to be like when both of them are over hitting balls. I'm looking at basically a almost open. You know, when Scotty's having a little bit of a problem, he's open face, and so he'll hit. It's kind of humorous. Just so I'm going to shut this one, and thinks it's shut, and I'm going, oh gosh, that was shut. Golly, his shut face is still almost open. Don't tell him that. I hope he doesn't hear this. But no, he knows it. But the closer the face is to a little bit more square, the better he is. He's more consistent. Once that club face gets open, everybody thinks you got an open club face, you're going to be prone to a right shot. Sure, not necessarily. Players of this caliber, when they feel the club coming down, it's in an open position. More than likely, it's going to try to drop behind them a little bit too. And with the club face open, their hands are good enough to say, wait a minute, I got to move that toe over real quick. And all of a sudden, you see some left shots coming out of an open face player. And that's one thing you got to watch with Scottie, because if he's flipping them, more than likely, the club is a little open, a little across the line. And if we can get that fixed, and funny you bring that up, because the last 2 days, he came back from Kapalua the last 3 days. He was not hitting the ball well at Kapalua at all. And so we did some pretty in-depth work, and he challenged me. I mean, I cannot do this. I mean, I can't hit shots like this. I have got to find a way to get this fixed. Got to have something new. Give me something new. And kind of backwards, he didn't know it, but it was new to him, but it was old. And looked great when he left here yesterday. So hopefully, you know, he trusted as much as he did while he was here, and has a great week this week. Yeah,
he played good at the American Express last year. I think he was 5th. He's in the top 10 last year.
It might have been third.
Yeah. He was up there.
I'd have been tied for second, you know, because he had a comeback at the end.
Yeah.
You know, that was very impressive to me, because he put himself in a bad position in the last group, and then put himself in position, honestly, to tie the golf tournament on the 17th hole coming in.
I remember that.
And if that putt goes in, but you got to hand it. Landry, good Lord.
Yeah.
Andrew played so good. That was.
I gotta ask you about this little run here in the playoffs. I mean, Scottie was the rookie of the year, gets into the playoffs. Well, no, let's take a step back. Let's go all the way to Memorial, 22nd, WGC St. Jude, 15th, 4th at the PGA, 4th at the Northern Trust. He goes 20th at the BMW, finishes 5th in the PGA Tour championship. I mean, the tour. I mean, that's an incredible run of golf for a rookie. And I'm sitting there watching him. I think he played with DJ. I was sitting there on my couch. I think he was playing with Dustin at the Northern Trust. And I'm just watching him. I'm like, he looks like he's been doing this for 15 years out there, walking around with these guys, just hitting bombs off the tee, good approach game, making some. I mean, he just looked like he belonged right there with DJ, going shot for shot. I mean, were you at all surprised with the run that he made to get to the Rookie of the Year out there in his first season?
No, it wasn't surprising.
Okay.
little more surprised he didn't sneak up on one of those tournaments and kind of pick it off.
And get it.
But these guys are really good.
Yeah.
One thing about Scottie, it's really hard. A lot of youngsters, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way up through high school, can be very intimidated of tour professionals.
Mm-hmm.
Scottie's totally he was the these tour guys that we've been fortunate enough here at Royal Oaks to have a lot of guys that played at high levels on the tour. Well, Scottie played a lot of golf with these guys. And it wasn't Scottie trying to get in a game at, say, 10, 11 years old. They would ask Scottie to come on out with them and put him into those games. He is totally unfazed by playing at that level, heck, when he's 8, 9, 10 years of age. And it's a cute thing to watch.
Mm-hmm.
But totally unfazed by being around these guys. Plus, he's very much a copier. When he was younger, he would sit and watch tour players do things and not say a word for an hour. Then he'd disappear and you'd see him doing the same thing.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that because I can see that. I mean, it almost looked like Dustin Johnson walking around out there when I was watching him that day. I mean, it kind of looked like he was just almost subconsciously or consciously like loping around like him. And just looked like the two have been doing this for 20 years together on tour. I mean, it was like you just watch him, you're like, that guy, he belongs. He's not scared. I mean, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's exactly where he needs to be at this point in time and is going to be doing it for quite some time.
Well, it's funny you say that. The PGA, one of the questions was, well, looking at him at the PGA, how comfortable he was. It's obvious that, it'd been a different situation if there'd been, crowds of 100,000 people out there and the moment would have been so much bigger.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, it would. It would have been bigger because I think Scottie would have fed off of it like you would not believe. I think it didn't help Scottie not having a crowd because that crowd, he's an elite player in basketball, high school. And of course he wasn't playing, but his senior year. After he won the United States Junior, he came back and he told me, he says, you think I'd go play with my high school team? And I mean, this is a high division high school team. I said, you're going to play basketball? You've already busted your ankle once playing it in the off season. He said, well, I kind of want to do it. And I said, I'd love to see you do it and play. And so he's very athletic. He's very that way, but he gets, he pops a little jump shot right there and the crowd goes wild. Watch out on the next one. Same thing with golf. It's like, how's he going to be affected going into Augusta this year? Well, no crowds. I mean, that's going to be a big benefit to him. I said, because I think he's the kind of player, once he hears that noise come from one spot, he's wanting to make noise for himself and see if he can get people to make the same reaction when he does something good on the golf course.
19th at the Masters, his first go. Then he 13th at the Tournament of Champions. You guys are off to a pretty good start here for the season, and it's going to be fun to watch, to see the out there in the West Coast swing, of course, kicking off with the American Express. I got to ask you one more question. One of your longtime students, Justin Leonard, who you guys had a great run, has made now the trip up to the booth. Everybody thinks I sound like Justin Leonard. Do you think I sound like Justin Leonard right now? My voice to you?
Well, it's a bit of a question. There's a little hint in it.
Is there? Okay.
Delivery, the delivery's pretty close. In fact, very close.
Yeah.
It's not quite there yet.
No. It's funny because I worked at Golf Channel for like 4 years, and Leonard came on right after that, and we met a couple times, and I can't tell you how many times when he's talking, I get texts, hey, are you doing the telecast right now? I'm like, no, it's Justin Leonard. Number one, I don't have the credentials to be sitting in the number 2 seat like Justin Leonard, but I appreciate that you thought that maybe I was. I get it all the time. It's crazy. I told him that one time, and we had a pretty good laugh.
Yeah, I can see.
Hey, Randy, thank you so much. I know you're busy there at at Rolling Oaks there in Dallas, and all the best to you and your players. And I'd love to do this again. This was fun. I appreciate it.
Hey, we'll do it anytime. And if you come to Dallas, it's
okay.
Royal Oaks.
What'd I say?
You're saying Rolling.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's Royal Oaks.
But you know what? I like the way it came across.
Okay. I tried to sell it. Royal Oaks. I'll come see you.
Hey, do it, bud.
Okay. Thanks, Randy. Yep.